Hi, my name's Tracy, and I'm going to be talking about what I call ME/CFS Type B. There was another video about Type A, um, and this type is immune-based. It's got a sudden onset and a delayed worsening of symptoms called PEM after overdoing things physically. First, though, I want to say that, of course, this is not the final word on anything. But I have done a lot of reading of the original research on ME/CFS, paid a lot of attention to other people's stories, and to my own 15 years with this type of ME/CFS. Well, just to recap what's in a couple of other videos, I believe that ME/CFS is a term used to describe two different diseases that look kind of similar. One is type A, and that is based in the autonomic nervous system. And people who have this version do not have a sudden onset of the disease that you can attribute to an infection or something else that would really get the immune system going. Um, they don't have a delay between overdoing things physically and PEM, and they might or might not have immune dysfunction, but it's not intrinsic to the disease. Type B, what I'm talking about today, is often called a neuroimmune disease. I would put the accent on immune in this case. There's a sudden onset after an infection or something else that would get the immune system going that activates an immune response that keeps going uh, beyond what would be healthy. There's a significant delay when people have this version of ME/CFS. There's a significant delay between their physical overexertion and PEM, or this worsening, this crash. And I want to be clear that I'm saying physical overexertion, meaning like exercise. Emotional and cognitive overexertion have not been studied, so they might actually operate differently. And basically, there's an immune dysfunction at the basis of type B. Well, type B, like all ME/CFS, is understudied, but it's less understudied than type A. Most studies will either filter out people who have type A and only include as participants people who have a sudden infectious onset. And that's especially true since the advent of long COVID, because everyone who has ME/CFS from long COVID is going to have type B. Other studies will include both types A and type B, and maybe there's a type C and type D. But type B is known to be more numerous. Maybe 75% or so of cases are type B. So when a pattern is discerned, that pattern is mostly from type B. However, you would see a clearer pattern for type B if type B was analyzed separately from type A. And you could still have them both in the same study, but just analyze them separately. Well, so what goes wrong with type B? Nobody knows. I can't say that I know, but there have been a few recent articles that say similar things, and that I find more convincing than anything else I've heard in the decade or so that I've paid attention to this. And so, just as one scenario, there's something called trained immunity that happens in normal, healthy people as well, where if you get an infection, your immune system is primed, and if there's a second infection, maybe from a different pathogen, so maybe you get the flu one time and you get COVID the second time. If you get when you get the second one, if you've had a first one recently, the second one puts the immune system on high alert. So even after you recover from the second one, the immune system for an extended period, several months, is ready to pounce. It's hypervigilant. And somehow we seem to get stuck in that. So the question is, how do we get stuck? Is it just that trained immunity somehow never turns off? I think for a variety of reasons that seems unlikely. Um, Perhaps, though, as researchers have suggested, there's a vicious cycle of some sort. And there are lots of possibilities, and some of them include that there's just this repeated exposure to pathogens over and over again. Maybe there's some pathogen, maybe you never got rid of some pathogen inside you, some virus or bacteria, or maybe there's some part of it, like the spike protein of COVID, that's just hanging around, keeping the trained immunity going. Or maybe you have viral reactivation. Some viruses never leave the body. They integrate into your cells, and they occasionally, under certain circumstances, reactivate. And maybe for some reason, they are reactivating more now, and that triggers trained immunity to keep going. Or autoimmune reactions where your immune system starts seeing healthy tissues or other parts of your body as enemies and keeps trying to attack them. Those are among the possibilities. Well, regardless of what actually started it and what keeps it going, it is known through lots of research now that that people with ME/CFS type B have brain inflammation, different types of brain inflammation. We have circulatory problems, more than one kind of circulatory problem. Immune problems, again, multiple types. Our sympathetic nervous system is on high alert, like in type A, and mitochondrial problems as well, and probably others, but, depending on the person. So, because research has shown this pretty clearly by now, it seems like we could come up with better diagnostic criteria than we currently have, because currently diagnosis consists of a list of symptoms that a person might have, like sleep disturbance. But sleep disturbance is the result of something else, like brain inflammation or whatever it might be. And so instead of this incomplete list of vaguely worded symptoms, what if we just said someone with ME/CFS type B has brain inflammation, circulatory problems, and immune problems of, something like that gets at processes rather than the end symptoms. Well, that's just my soapbox. Here's the interesting part, perhaps. What treatments are there? Unfortunately, it is my impression that complete or nearly complete recovery is less common than in type A. Maybe unheard of. But some lucky ducks do seem to improve markedly for extended periods, like in some cases a decade, before another infection returns them to full-on ME/CFS again. I personally have gone through this a couple of times, not for 10 years, but for a few months. And it seems when you get to that point, like you should start planning for the rest of your life as a healthy person. How can you reset? But it also seems that it's never a complete recovery, because it's likely that you will return to full-on ME/CFS at some point later. Well, so that isn't actually a treatment. That's a caveat about treatments. But there was a recent survey that I'm going to put a link to in the description below that asked thousands of ME/CFS and long COVID patients what worked for them. And this is the best thing to go to. I have my own list on my blog, but this is the best resource. And So I'd suggest that you check it out and ask me in the comments if you find it difficult to interpret. But none of the things on that list, as far as I know, clearly gets at the basis, except perhaps anything that can isolate you from pathogens in some way. So IVIG, or in my case SCIG, for some people might get them past this stuck immune response. At least it seems like from some reports that that's the case. But in general, I believe that the most effective thing a person can do is really kind of horrible, which is isolate themselves from pathogens. And that means not being around other people. But the next best thing is to religiously wear a mask. But clearly this doesn't work for everyone, because the severely ill are quite isolated, and they don't get better as a result of their isolation. So even that's not as hopeful as it might be. Sorry. Well, that was a quick trip through most people's version of ME/CFS, including my own. I hope you'll subscribe. I'm going to continue making videos about living with ME/CFS and long COVID, and also comments on the state of research and discussing new research that comes out. Hope to see you later. Thank you.